The core of chairing a meeting is managing the meeting itself, and it's a big topic, so let's dive straight in. Managing the meeting starts with opening it up in a formal way, and we've got another video that covers that, so I won't say any more on this, but also doing some introductions to go around the room, make sure that everybody in the room can introduce themselves so that we all know who we're with. And I strongly recommend that while this is happening, you draw out a meeting map for yourself, because when you're chairing, it can take a lot of energy. It can take a lot of mental energy, and therefore you don't want to be caught out suddenly realizing you've forgotten the name of somebody whose name you should well know. So if you've got that little meeting map in front of you, you can just glance down, take a look at that meeting map and get the name. Once you've done the introductions, set the tone for the meeting by encouraging contributions, by telling people what they can expect of the meeting, and describing the process you intend to take people through. If there are any ground rules, that's the time to lay them out and to be clear about the kind of disciplines that you want to enforce. Now you're into the meeting proper. And for me, the number one skill for a chair in a meeting is asking good questions. When you want to encourage a conversation, you need to be able to ask good questions. And there are three key types of questions to bear in mind. The first type of question is an open question that encourages exploration of a topic, that allows people to answer in whatever way they see fit. Asking the meeting open questions early on widens the conversation and allows people to get a sense of the scope of the ideas that people want to bring to the table. The second type is probing questions, and probing questions are ones that pick on a part of what's being discussed so far and ask more detailed questions about it. Tell me more about this. When you talk about this, what precisely do you mean? And then the final type of question to consider are closed questions, which are designed to get a very, very precise, very specific confirmation of a detail. Often people think that a closed question is a yes-no question. And indeed, yes-no questions are examples of closed questions. But a closed question is one that gives the person responding to the question no latitude in how they answer if they want to conform to the natural conventions of the conversation. So obviously asking a yes or no question does give them no latitude, but so does more detailed questions that aren't necessarily in the yes-no format. So for example, how many steps are there in the process? How long will it take to achieve this? These are closed questions because they get a very specific closed answer. A great way to think of open, probing and closed questions is as a funnel. At the top of the funnel, our open questions are broad. By the time we get to the bottom of the funnel, they're very narrow and allow us to confirm information and record a very precise statement. Obviously, therefore, the last stage of a decision-making conversation for opportunity will be the closed question about what decision we want to take. When asking questions, or indeed if you're asked a question and are not ready to answer it yourself and so want the group to answer it, you can focus your questions in any of three ways. Firstly, you can ask the question of the group as a whole. You can address the question to the whole meeting. Secondly, you can get more specific. You can ask the question of the whole group, but then select one or two individuals that you want to hear from first. So here's a question for the meeting. Perhaps Bob and Carol can give us their thoughts to kick us off. And finally, more specifically, you can target a question at one or more individuals. Ahmed, I wonder if you could answer this question. Or Jane, here's a question for you. Whenever someone has made a substantial or important contribution, recognise that contribution and thank the person for it. But if someone is going off at a tangent, or they're merely repeating something that's already been said, then note that. And in another video, you'll find I refer to the idea of red herrings as being where the meeting is taken off at a tangent, and black holes as where the meeting spirals around the same topic continually. And I suggest that one meeting tool is to produce cards that allow any member of the meeting to identify a red herring or a black hole. In the chair, you always need to be listening to what's going on and scanning around the room. And you're doing this for two particular reasons. One is to gauge the mood of the room and to spot any individuals who are either looking confused, upset, angry, or even disengaged. The other reason, of course, for scanning around the room is to get a sense of who wants to speak next, or to identify people who may have something to contribute, but who aren't seemingly confident to put themselves forward so that you can call upon them. And clearly, if you do sense that people are disengaged, you need to do something about it. And if people are being disrespectful and doing something else, either a side conversation or looking at their phone, then you may want to catch their eye or call them out on that. Because nothing can spoil the mood of a meeting more than one or two individuals starting to disengage and that spreading. Throughout the meeting, encourage respectful challenge of ideas and debate of ideas. It's a good idea to avoid yourself stating a position or a preference too early on in a discussion, to make sure that people feel confident in putting contrary views. This will allow not only you but the whole meeting to weigh up those different points of view, whereas if you state your own preference too early, then people may think there's no point in debating things, or they may decide, even worse, that they're going to simply adopt your point of view because they think that that's the right thing to do for whatever reason. A great tip that I like to use is to use silence. When a conversation appears to have finished and yet you think that there's more that needs to be said, simply remain silent. Someone will fill that silence, and often what they'll do is contribute something new that will spark off the conversation again and move it forward, possibly in a slightly new direction. But when the meeting does reach the logical endpoint of a conversation or a discussion, then part of your role is to summarize what's been said, to synthesize the different ideas, and to bring some sort of a conclusion to the conversation. An alternative, of course, is to look to a suitable member of the meeting and to ask them to summarize or to draw a conclusion from the conversation. I suppose it's also worth mentioning that sometimes in chairing a meeting, you're going to have to handle poor behaviour of various sorts, whether we're talking about disruptions or interruptions or conflict of some sort. If you do get these, remain calm and simply point them out. Usually, most of the meeting will be on your side. They will want disputes or interruptions resolved quickly. So just ask the people concerned if there's anything you can do to help. And if they say no, say, well, in that case, could we just move on with the meeting? If you've got a real dispute going on between two people and you think that they need to resolve that dispute, then ask them calmly and respectfully to step outside of the meeting to have the conversation outside and then to come back when they've resolved the issue. Another core part of your role as chair or facilitator of the meeting is to control the process. The processes of making decisions, drawing summaries and conclusions, and allocating roles and responsibilities out of actions that the meeting agrees to take. So you will need to become skilled at understanding how decisions are made and the different mechanisms that you can take. And part of the skill is just simply recognizing when the time is right, particularly for decision making, because the meeting needs to discuss something long enough for everyone to feel comfortable that they've reached the point where they can make a decision. But if you let the meeting carry on beyond that point too far, then people get a sense that they're wasting their time and can sometimes get into the mindset that actually maybe the best thing to do is to not make a decision. That's a little bit safer than making a decision. It's rarely the case that deferring a decision once the conversation has completed and all of the information is there is the right thing to do. So drawing the meeting to a conclusion, making the decision, driving the decision-making process is central to your role. Finally, a big part of your role is to ensure that the meeting is properly recorded. I would suggest that unless it's a small and simple meeting, you as chair do not do the recording role because you've got too many other things to think about and it's distracting. It's hard to concentrate on the meeting when you're also concentrating on what it is you're writing down or typing about the meeting. And of course, if people can see that you're not focused on the meeting, then you can lose a sense of order and discipline around the meeting, and very quickly it can get out of control. And absolutely finally, close the meeting down in an orderly fashion. Thank people for their participation. Make sure that you summarise what's been agreed and what people have committed to, and possibly go around the room one last time, looking people in the eye and checking that they have committed to the tasks that you've recorded and that they are confident and comfortable to do that work. There's lots of stuff to do after the meeting, but we'll look at that in another video. Please give us a thumbs up if you like this video. There's loads more great management courses content to come, so please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell to make sure you don't miss anything. I'll see you in the next video, and in the meantime, keep learning.